Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be having a big update on Tropical Storm Henri, which could bring some major impacts across parts of the New England states over the next couple of days. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the National Hurricane Center outlook here. We do have a couple things going on here other than Tropical Storm Henri. Hurricane Grace is back. It brought in some effects to the Yucatan area of Mexico, has re-strengthened back into a hurricane, and this may have a chance for a low-end Category 2 hurricane before it makes landfall. It's better organized, very warm waters down there right now, so I think this thing has a chance to become a low-end Category 2 hurricane later on before it makes landfall in Mexico. There's another disturbance back off to the in the main development region, has a low end 20% chance in the next 5 days. If that track is going to be true, it'll go into cooler waters, may die out there. So I'm not really worried about that system. So those two systems are out of the way already. Let's talk about Tropical Storm Henri. It did die down a little bit. It's back down to 65 miles per hour, so it's still a little bit of a stronger tropical storm. Central pressure 995 millibars, moving west northwest at 9 miles per hour, so it's still moving closer to the Carolinas here. Still moving towards that direction, but it should start to turn more to the north here. But hey, this system may miss you guys, maybe 300 to 400 miles away. You guys are going to still get impacts from the system here, at least along the beach lines. Wave wave heights will be higher, and there's going to be some stronger rip currents when Henri gets closer to you guys there. Even up along the east coast here, we'll have at least some impacts here from Henri. And some of those impacts will probably be down as far south as the beaches in southeastern Georgia, where rip currents will be stronger and the wave heights will be a little bit higher. So Henri will bring in some impacts for almost the entire east coast here, but the impacts won't be too bad down here. It's when you get up to around the New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Maine area, even down maybe as far south as Delaware and Maryland. These are the areas we need to keep an eye on for Henri over the next couple of days here. So here's a cone here. We shifted again further to the west here. It's been continuing with that westward trend here. We actually have hurricane watches into parts of Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and southeastern Massachusetts. Those may expand a little further inland, and we may get to start to see tropical storm watches for probably most of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and probably will expand a little bit more into parts of New York as well, and possibly up to Maine. So don't focus too much on the cone here because it's going to be going over a large area here. Wherever the SPC mentioned this about a day ago, they said that whenever it gets this far north, closer to Connecticut, Rhode Island, the wind field is going to expand here. That happens a lot with tropical systems when they get this far north, so that their wind spans do get larger over time. So don't focus too much on the cone here because you guys can still see effects even outside of the cone. The cone really means it's where the center of circulation could go. So it could go farther to the west, could go further to the east, or it could go in the middle of the cone. So we need to watch here. But the other thing I'm going to be very concerned about is this turn right here. And when it starts to make that turn, that means that system will stick around a little bit longer and will start to move a little bit slower. And that could lead to some major flooding problems. Uh, we'll be talking about a lot of rain because a lot of heavy rain will be over those same areas for a longer period of time, which is not going to be good news for places like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, possibly Vermont and Maine as well, dealing with a lot of that heavy rain there that could go on for a decent amount of time here. And this is something pretty rare too. One weather refuses on Weather Trade said if this makes landfall as a hurricane in around Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts area, this would be the first time in 30 years. Now keep in mind, tropical systems are common up there. You just had the remains of Fred up there. Didn't really have tropical characteristics, but the remains still continue. You did have a couple of tropical systems up there last year. It's just the intensity of the system here. We're talking about a Category 1 hurricane that can make landfall somewhere in the New England states, and that's pretty rare when you think about it. It's a little bit more common for tropical storms and tropical depressions to be up there, but a hurricane, that's a little bit more on the rare side of things. So this system is going to be very interesting when it gets up there as well. Not only we're watching for that hurricane force wind threat and the flooding threat, let's talk about the storm surge potential. And storm surge could go down as far south as Cape May in New Jersey. That could be 1 to 3 feet up into East Rockaway Inlet, and it could be 2 to 4 feet up to Watch Hill, and even for around the Long Island Sound could see storm surge up to 2 to 4 feet. But some of the worst storm surge would be in around Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts area. That's where we're going to see some of the worst storm surge. That's where we can see 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. So yeah, definitely have some concerns with storm surge as well. With those hurricane force winds, that's going to push all that water here up closer to the shoreline, and that can cause some coastal flooding problems up there. Here's the rainfall potential for the Weather Prediction Center, and you can see here they do have an area of 4 to 6 inches of rain, but I still think some of these rainfall totals are underdone here, in my opinion. Especially when you have a slower moving system here. It will not surprise me if we start to see some areas could see possibly 6+ inches of rain, maybe closer to the 10-inch side. I think that's definitely possible with this system here, given the fact it'll slow down, and a lot of these areas could see heavy rain for a much longer period of time. It'll stick around up around that area there for probably about a day or a little longer than that as well. Here's your wind speed probabilities for tropical storm force winds, and usually a 30 to 40% chance is still a pretty decent chance for tropical storm winds. And you see there, it goes as far southwest as central New Jersey, as far north as Vermont and New Hampshire, to southeast to southern Maine as well. So this could be over a pretty large region here. Even a 5 to 10% chance as far west as central Pennsylvania. That's a low chance. But you can definitely see here, it's over a pretty large area here, having that potential for tropical storm force winds here. Let's check out the chances for hurricane force winds, and the chances are much lower, but as confidence increases over time, I think we'll start to see some higher percentages. But you do see here, there is a low end 5 to 10% chance across Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Actually, Rhode Island has a 10 to 20% chance of hurricane force winds as well. Don't be too surprised if these percentages get upgraded over the next few updates here. I think that's it from the National Hurricane Center here. Let's check out some models here. So here's Tropical Storm Henri. Still got a lot of convection around the main circulation here. That's pretty impressive there. It's been like that for the past several days here. It has a lot of convection around the center of circulation here. I think it's just having a little hard time trying to get organized here. Here's where the hurricane models have to track. So this is the latest update on 12Z. Models are starting to shift a little further to the west again. Yeah, still continuing with that westward shift. But you also see here, there's actually a few models that actually bring it into New York City area. That'll be concerning there if it makes landfall into New York City. But right now, I think where this system may make landfall, probably somewhere in Connecticut, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts would probably be the area where it'll make landfall. But if we're going to continue to see this westward shift here, it won't be too much longer before areas along the east coast of North Carolina, maybe to Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and southern New Jersey may actually start to have an increasing threat from Tropical Storm Henri as well. So this is definitely something we need to monitor here. This could affect a lot of people up there. There's a lot of people that live in those areas in there. Talk about millions of people that has a threat to Tropical Storm Henri that could see Tropical Storm force winds. It's not a good deal there. Here's the GFS almost. It has the mean there making landfall around probably somewhere in the Connecticut-Rhode Island state line. But it could go as far west as New York City or as far east as the islands in southeastern Massachusetts. So it's still over a large area. But either way, even if it's further east or west, there's still going to be impacts out there. So it doesn't really matter if there's going to be impacts at this point or not. I think a lot of these people will start to see impacts either way here, even if it's going to be further to the east or further to the west as well. And it'll start to rapidly die down as it gets into places of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, which I know there is some mountainous terrain up there, so that's going to make things a little bit more difficult to survive over land, especially with those mountainous terrain up there as well. Here's the intensity guidance from the hurricane models. You can see here a good chunk of the models bring it to a low end category 1. I think it could go a little higher than that. We'll see, but I think category 1 hurricane seems very likely at this point here. Category 2 is a low chance at this point here as well. One thing I want to mention about Henri here, something very interesting will be happening in the mid-Atlantic region. This is the 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies here. In the blues here, that's where you have your troughing, and the reds here, this is where you have your ridging. Watch as we go into tomorrow. There's going to be a weak trough setting up across the mid-Atlantic here. Typically, troughs here have a little bit more energy to work with, and this is not really a terribly strong trough or anything. It's actually a weaker trough, but this can help Henri gain intensity. And you will notice with those isobars in there, which is the pressure of a system. So this is into the early morning hours on Saturday. You can see here how this trough is getting ready to help Henri intensify. You'll start to see more and more isobars there within the center of the storm. Here's later in the day here. Your trough is actually giving some energy to Henri, and that's going to help it intensify a little bit better here. Especially on the combination of very warm sea surface temperatures, I think there's going to be a period of a pretty good intensification here, especially when it's just east of North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland before it hits some cooler waters, and eventually that trough is going to start to die down. But to the north here, there's a big ridge here, which is going to make it slow down and start to try to turn a little bit more to the northeast here. I think it's going to die down before it makes landfall due to cooler sea surface temperatures as well. But you can see where the GFS takes it, and it makes landfall somewhere around the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area. You see here it rapidly dies out, and it pretty much dies out when it gets into Massachusetts and Vermont, so it'll be dying down fairly quickly here when it gets a little further up north. Here's your current sea surface temperatures, and Henri is somewhere, I believe, like right here. So it's over some very warm Gulf uh, sea surface temperatures here. Very warm waters you got going on here. After the point whenever it's just east of Maryland, that's where sea surface temperatures will not be favorable for tropical system development. So I believe after when it passes just to the east of Delaware, I think that's when it's going to start to die down. I think it's going to be at max strength, probably just to the east of Virginia Beach, at least a couple hundred miles offshore from Virginia Beach to the east. I think that's where it's going to make its max intensity here as well. Really, in the yellow colors there, that's somewhat favorable, but when we get to the green and the blues, that's not favorable for tropical systems. Uh, Temperatures in the 27 to 30 degree range will be very favorable for tropical systems, especially when you get to the 30 to 31 degree threshold. That's very favorable. That's like bath water, pretty much. So, yeah, Henri definitely has a good chance of intensifying into a hurricane here. But then again, it's going to die down before it makes landfall, which is good news there. At least it'll die down a little bit before it makes landfall up there. Like I said about the rain here, the models are likely to be well underdone with the rainfall totals, but really the one I found the most accurate will be the icon model. You can see here into when it gets into western Massachusetts and Connecticut and Long Island, it has rainfall totals about 4 or 5 inches. of rain. I think we're going to likely see places that could see more rain than that. We may be talking about maybe 8 inches rain. Maybe some places could see higher than that, especially when, again, that system slows down and starts to make that northeastward turn. A lot of these people here could see heavy rain for a much longer period of time than a system going about 9 miles an hour from south to north. So, yeah, that's going to be another big threat here. It's going to be that heavy rainfall. And the weather predictor currently has some of the higher rainfall totals further to the east here, but really anybody, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, maybe even as far north as New Hampshire and Vermont, could see some hefty rainfall totals from the system here. So that's definitely something else we need to watch here inland as well. Tornado threat wise, it will kind of depend on its position on the tornado threat. If it's on the further east side of the cone, like if it just goes over this way here, not really anybody would see that tornado threat. However, if it makes landfall to like New York or something like that, yeah, there could be a decent tornado threat out of this. So the tornado threat would still be questionable for these areas in here, but there's no doubt about with the tropical storm winds, even for some places I could see hurricane force winds, and also that heavy rainfall, and on top of that, storm surge as well. So for anybody that lives in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, even as far north as across parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, even as far west as New York and parts of New Jersey, definitely needs to watch the system here very closely, even to parts of Maine as well. So if anybody that lives in these regions here, definitely need to watch the system here over the next couple of days here. And probably need to be prepared here for potentially for some major impacts, especially for parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, which those will be the states that could see some of the worst impacts from Henri. However, things could change, but this is right now the trends right now. But I will just say this, just be prepared for some major impacts for places like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts here over the next couple of days. I'll definitely have another update on this here tomorrow. If there's going to be any major changes, I'll let you guys know here on my YouTube channel. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. And I see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.